Hello, friends. We're working on our reading for the week and learning about why is the past important. There's our essential question again, right here. And we worked halfway through this work, but we're going to go ahead and continue. And we're going to talk about why is the past important. All right, our vocabulary that we already went over, we had the words communicate, which means to be able to talk to each other. Possibly might be writing to each other, but a way for each other to understand each other. Complete and finish. We talked about how those are words that are very similar to each other. That means you're able to finish something and complete it. It means it's done. Improvements. Improvements means to make things better. Popular. That's what everybody likes at the moment, right? What we like. Pond. We talked about how that's a body of water that doesn't have a lot of water movement like a river. Usually we have ponds in gardens and things like that. Wealthier means we're able to have more money, or if we're wealthier, some people just think it means that we're able to have more. Rebuilt means it is built again. This little part to the word, it's an affix. And RE means again, so rebuilt means built again. And afraid means we're nervous or scared about something. All right, so today we're going to read a story, and this story is called School Days. And we're going to be listening and retelling key details, meaning what are those most important parts that we need to be remembering when we read. Our focus is on the past, the present, and the future. So we are going to be looking at informational text again. And I want to ask you, what features of informational text do you see here? All right, so you should be looking at real photographs. You should be looking at those pictures. Those are real. They're black and white and much older. The captions explaining the photographs. And remember, the captions are these blue areas down here at the bottom. So usually we have captions in informational nonfiction, right? And then there's dates in there. We see when things are happening. So if I just glance through here, I can see there's some dates in here as I read. All right, so we're all going to make a prediction of the story. So you're going to guess what you think the story will be about. So one way that you could say that out loud to yourself or to your family, you could say, I predict that I will learn about, what are you going to be learning about in this story? Go ahead and tell your parents. Tell yourself. Tell your brothers and sisters. All right, you should have said something about that you might be learning or predicting that you're going to learn about maybe what school was like long ago. And we're going to be underlining key details as we read. So you could be thinking about that. I'll be doing it with my cursor here so I can show you how to do it. So we're going to begin with school days. Long ago, many children were unable to attend school. Wow, that's a big statement right away that many children were not able to go to school. Their families needed them to work in factories or on their farms. All right, so if they were in the big city, they were probably working in those big, huge factories as children and not going to school. If they were out in the country, they more than likely were helping their parents on the farm and working like the adults, long hours. In the 1800s, many schools consisted of one room. Some of your parents might be able to talk to you about that. They called them one-room schoolhouses. They had just one giant room. Let's look at this picture over here. This is what we call a one-room schoolhouse. The caption says, in a one-room schoolhouse, the younger students sat up front and the older ones sat in the back. Teachers would have all ages of kids in their classrooms. Let's continue to read. One teacher taught children of all ages reading, writing, and math. Students dipped pens in ink to practice their ABCs. They learned poems by heart to recite to the class. So that means that they memorized poems and they had to tell the poems back to the classroom. We do a little bit of that and have a little bit of fun with that. Poor schools just had a few old books and no heat. Wealthier schools had new books and stoves. All right, so there was a big difference between some of the schools depending on where you lived. If you lived out in the country, in a poor area, you didn't have as many materials. Let's go over to this side over here. I'm going to wait till it leaves. Some very young children didn't get to go to school. They went to work instead. So this is a picture of a factory and children having to work. You might be able to ask your parents about some of those things. They probably have stories in their families of people that had to work. I know that my father had to work out in the fields and missed a lot of school when he was younger. Schools have changed a lot since then. Today, you have classes for each grade and libraries full of books. You can use modern technology like tablets and whiteboards to learn reading, math, and other subjects. You can even use the internet to discover new things. So different today than back then. Schools will keep changing. Here's how we're going into the future. I can tell by what the clues are. Now let's look at the next sentence. In the future. There we go. In the future, the books you use will probably be on your laptop or tablet. When kids are too sick to come to school, robots will help them be there in the classroom. With two-way video, even when kids are home, they won't miss a thing. Oh, so this is talking about the future, and some of that is almost coming true right now, isn't it? Let's look at the caption here. Look at this picture. This is one of our virtual students, I think. Robots will let kids talk to friends at lunch, take part in math games, and help with classroom pets. All right, and down here, let's look this way. Today, many classrooms have technology that helps kids learn and makes it fun. And she's got a tablet there. We have so many things that children didn't have. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to write down one key detail from the story. What was something that was really important that we read about? So you could do this in your notebook. You could do it on a whiteboard if you have that at home. All right, so lots of important things that were said here. Long ago, many children were unable to attend school. Is that important? Is that something that we could write down for a key detail? Their families needed them to work in factories or on their farms. Well, we have to know who needed them to work. That would be needed the children, right? So do you think that's an important key detail? In the 1800s, many schools consisted of one room. One teacher taught children of all ages reading, writing, and math. Is that something important to know about schoolrooms of our past? That would be pretty hard to do, have all those kids in one class, from kindergarten all the way up to high school in one classroom. Students dipped pens in ink to practice their ABCs. They learned poems by heart to recite to the class. Poor schools had just a few old books and no heat. That'd be pretty cold in the winter. Wealthier schools had new books and stoves. What information do you think is really important there? You can always pause it. All right, I'm going to read the next page again, and then you can pause it and figure out what you want to write. Schools have changed a lot since then. Today, you have classes for each grade and libraries full of books. Is that important to talk about today? You can use modern technology like tablets and whiteboards to learn reading, math, and other subjects. You can even use the internet to discover new things. I wonder if there's a key detail in there you could write down. Schools will keep changing. In the future, the books you use will probably be on your tablet, laptop, or tablet. When kids are too sick to come to school, robots will help them be there in the classroom. With two-way video, even when kids are home, they won't miss a thing. All right, is there a detail in this part of the story that you want to use? That'll be up to you. You can pause and you can think about what you want to use. All right, and on a piece of paper, you can write down your key detail. Go ahead and pause it, write your key detail, and then you can unpause it, and I'll show you what detail I wrote down. All right, let's look at mine. This was my key detail. I wrote down a long time ago, a lot of kids did not go to school. They had to work on their family's farm or in factories. I thought that was really important to know for the story. You could have written something different, and that's okay.